Hello, everyone, and inside today's episode of Locked On Canadiens, we're talking about the imminent return of Paul Byron. Should the Montreal Canadiens offer sheet Rasmus Sandin? And what are our expectations for the rookie tournament in Buffalo this week? All that and more inside today's show.
Locked On Canadiens, your daily podcast on the Montreal Canadiens. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 684 of Locked On Canadiens. As always, thank you for making us your first listen. If you're listening to us wherever you get your daily podcast, or if you're watching our shining faces on YouTube, thank you so much. Make sure you subscribe there as well. We appreciate all of you. I am one of your hosts. I am Scott Matlin. I'm joined, as always, by the active stick, Laura Seba. And for those who are watching on YouTube, you can see Laura is rocking one of our new dope Locked On hats. We are big fans. Laura, how are you doing? It is Sunday here as we're recording this, which means something's probably going to happen. I know we keep saying that it's not coming true, but if I will it into existence, maybe it will.
It did come true last week. We said, the Kirby Doc and the Kaiden Primo and all of that. that did happen. So it's Sunday morning, so bear with us. So that's when we're recording. So we're going to talk about whatever's going on right now. And our next episode is going to be really cool because we're doing a crossover with the Locked On Red Wings guys, Scotty and Brian, and we adore them and we're so excited. We can talk about Ben Chirot. We can talk about what's going on there and how their rebuild is going and what lessons the Canadiens can draw from that. But in the meantime, we are moving back to 5 days a week next week, which we're going to talk about a little bit later in this episode. The rookie tournament's coming up, so there's going to be, we're starting, the hockey season is starting back up. It's training camp, it's rookie tournament, people are arriving, and there's lots to talk about.
Yes, and before we jump into the rookie tournament and some of the other stuff, we kind of glossed over this a little bit when talking about the Kirby Doc contract, Kaiden Primo, and Carey Price, is that Paul Byron's injury timeline has been, I don't want to say graduated, but moved up a lot more here, and that they anticipate him being ready for camp and the start of the regular season now, which is kind of shocking because the way they made it seem with his hip surgery is he wouldn't be ready until, November, December at the earliest. And all of a sudden, either he's got some of that max patch ready healing factor, or maybe it wasn't as bad as they anticipated. But that's another veteran coming back into the Canadiens lineup. And I hate that this is how I have to think of things now, is that their cap situation was alleviated for a little amount of time here. And now they've got another piece of the puzzle to fit here. And my first question is, are they going to keep Paul Byron? Because I imagine a guy like him is very in demand for teams wanting to flesh out their bottom six. Or are the Canadiens going to keep him and try to move like a Joel Armia, who also I assume has value in that same role? It's an interesting discussion for Kent Hughes to have now, is that does Paul Byron want to stay here through the rebuild, or would he rather go and get a chance at a cup? And my thought is, I think Byron would be happy to stay here and serve as a mentor for a lot of guys here, whereas Joel Armia might, want to go and get that chance at winning and everything. And I don't begrudge him for that fact. And as it stands, I would rather have Byron in the lineup, to be quite honest. And that's not a slight at Joel Armia. That's just a preference for the way that Byron plays the game of hockey.
Right. I mean, he's a lot faster. He's got some of that hockey sense that you need. Everybody, I think, in this market loves Paul Byron as a team player. He's definitely one of those guys that provides mentorship. He's one of those guys that never complains. You put him in the lineup wherever you need him, and he will do his best. He's much loved in Montreal, I think. And I'm a fan. And I think that the way that I look at this is that Paul Byron, to me, is a little bit more injury prone than Joel Armia. So, if you're looking for durability, you would pick, Joel Armia. But also, Joel Armia still has a lot more of his career ahead of him, over Paul Byron. Paul Byron's a little bit more, like I said, injuries, shorter time frame, all of that. So it might make sense for the Canadiens and the players. Like if you look at what makes sense for both sides, I think you keep Paul Byron and you try to shop Yoel Armia. But if you want to sort of, you had a vision in mind for how the start of the season's gonna go, Paul Byron wasn't in that sort of plan. So in that case, you would look to shop Paul Byron, and he, like we said, he's much loved in Montreal for a reason. He's the kind of player that you quote unquote win cups with, right? Like he's the one with the willingness and all of that. The versatility. Obviously, he's a bottom six player, but he's a high quality bottom six player. And so I think that's where the decision comes to. For me, I honestly, either way, I would not begrudge either player or the team. And I think that either way, I would wish the player the best, whoever they end up shipping out. I just feel like they can't keep both right now.
They can't. And I look at it this way, too, is that Byron is in the last year of his contract at 3.4 AAV. Yoel Armia is in the second of his 4-year deal that Marc Bergevin signed last summer. And his base salary actually goes up the next 2 seasons. He was $2 million, $3 million. Then it is 4.8 and then 3.8. So the hard part about this is that Armia's contract and the length that is left on it, unless the team has a long-term plan for a player like him, which I don't anticipate them doing, he might not be as appealing. And for the Canadiens, I think Yoel Armia has use. I do. I think last year was just one of those years that everything going on. He has personal stuff that was going on with his family. His wife or girlfriend, I'm not 100% sure which one, had a baby. He became a father for the first time. COVID and all that other stuff. There's a lot going on that weighs on a player that impacts the way they play a game. And for Paul Byron, he went through a lot too. He went through that hip injury and rehabbing through all of that. And then after that playoff run, then he came back, then he has to get the other hip done. And I do think he and his wife, Sarah, love it in Montreal. And I think that no matter what happens, they're going to try and keep Byron around just because I think he is a very good influence for a lot of these younger guys. He's a guy who toiled away in the AHL until he got claimed off waivers and became an NHL regular under, the Canadiens there. I will be sad to see Paul Byron go just because he's become kind of a cult hero in Montreal, to be quite honest. I don't think he will. I do think Yoel Armia is the guy they're going to try to move. I still think that Mike Hoffman is on that list, and I do think that they would be listening to answers on Josh Anderson right now if there's anything out there. But all we can do is kind of baselessly speculate on that until we get actual concrete stuff when people show up to camp. Who's healthy? Who's not? Who after 2 preseason games is drawing the interest of other teams because they're playing well? We don't know. But what we do know is that the Canadiens have signed all of their free agents, restricted or otherwise. Their biggest rival, the Toronto Maple Leafs, have one big one left. That is Rasmus Sandin. So I'm going to ask the question, should the Montreal Canadiens consider offer sheeting Rasmus Sandin? We're going to get into that coming up next. But first, our next partner has a product I use literally every day because Athletic Greens helps so much with my gut health, giving me more energy and helping to optimize my immune system, especially with winter and fall right around the corner here. It's so much easier than trying to take 9,000 different pills, and it's a supplement that actually tastes great. And I wanted to see what the hype was all about. It's lifestyle friendly, so whether you are gluten-free, if you're doing keto, you're vegan, dairy-free, Athletic Greens has something for you. It supports better sleep quality and recovery, supports mental clarity and alertness, and it's one of the best products based on the latest science with consistent product iterations from third-party testing. It has over 7,000 5-star reviews. It's recommended by professional athletes and trusted by leading health experts such as Tim Ferriss and Michael Gervais. There's so much in Athletic Greens that's going to help out. It has, if you purchase now, you're going to get a year's supply of vitamin D, which, like I said, winter and fall is right around the corner. Not as much sunlight. You need that to definitely get through your day and have that energy. So right now, it is time to reclaim your health and arm your immune system with convenient daily nutrition. It's just 1 scoop in a cup of water every day. That's it. There's no need for a million different pills and supplements to look out for your health. And to make it easier, Athletic Greens is going to give you a free 1-year supply of immune-supporting vitamin D and 5 free travel packs with your first purchase. All you have to do is visit athleticgreens.com/NHL network. Again, that is athleticgreens.com NFL Network to take ownership over your health and pick up the ultimate daily nutritional insurance. Okay, so we are back, and we're going to do a thing here where I am relying heavily on the fine folks at Cap Friendly who help make me seem so much smarter than I really am when it comes to this kind of thing. As I said before our break, Montreal has all of their RFAs and UFAs signed, at least all the ones that, we needed to be worrying about. They are ready for the regular season, ready in loose terms. There are other teams, though, that still have players unsigned. And one of them is the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that is kind of a big deal for them because, according to Cap Friendly, they are over the cap. They brought in a couple of guys on professional tryouts, but Rasmus Sandin is not signed quite yet. He's an RFA, and he is eligible for offer sheets. And as I look at Toronto's thing here, they signed a bunch of guys. They signed Nicholas Aube-Kubel. They have Kelly Yarncroc signed. They have Alexander Kerfoot, Pierre Engvall, and all these other guys under contract still. But Rasmus Sandin is not, and he is their young kind of hope of the future here on the left side of their defense. And as it stands right now, they don't have any cap space to sign him. So I look at the offer sheet thing here, starting at $1 million to $1,386,490. There's no compensation. No matter what, Toronto cannot currently match any of this without trading pieces away. And I look at every tier of eligibility, which, all the way up to 4 first-round picks to no compensation. The Canadiens can fit into any tier. And I'm not saying that they need to offer sheet him at $10 million. That's crazy. But there's a couple of things here. Like if they were to offer Rasmus Sandin $2.75 a year, that only costs them a second-round pick. And they can offer for as much term as they want. Whether he accepts that, they can offer that. My question is, Laura, should they do it, or is getting into another offer sheet war with the team not worth it at this point?
Honestly, I just want them to do it because I want more offer sheets in the league. And Toronto would never trade them Sandin, right? Trading Sandin is an option for the Toronto Maple Leafs, but they have made it clear behind the scenes that they will not be assisting the Canadiens in any way. So the only way to do this is in a hostile manner, which is an offer sheet. And the Canadiens right now, they have a logjam of defensemen, right? But you can take somebody away from a division rival and make him part of your future plans so easily when you know that there is, we've seen the potential in Rasmus Sandin. He's played enough games that we know what he's about. And we know that if his development progresses well, he could be a decent option for the Canadiens. And you don't even need to give him that much money. He's so early in his career, and Toronto can't match, right? Or I believe they have 7 full days to match, right? So in those 7 days between the time that they match and the time that, between the time that they get an offer sheet and the time they match, they're going to have to rethink their plans with all their players on their roster. So I think this is 2 things. One of them is a lesson in having cap space, not just sitting on cap space for the sake of having cap space, but giving yourself that flexibility, I think is so important going forward, particularly right now. We know there's a lot of stuff that comes off the Canadiens' books at the end of this season. There's some trades that they can make, all of that. But this is a lesson, right? If you want to be a contending team, you can't be pushed so far up the cap that you can't do anything. And as they go into negotiations with Cole Caulfield for his future contract, this is going to be so clear. But also, why not, right? The Canadiens have a lot of defensemen. The Canadiens have a lot of young defensemen. But they need to kind of solidify the future, and this could be a way to do it.
And the thing about them having a lot of young defensemen is that Sandin is a left side defenseman, which is where the Canadiens have a wealth of people. They have a Norlinder, they have Guhle, they have Jack-Eye, they have players who are in that spot competing right now, and they're not going to offer sheet a guy to have him play on his offside, I think. And based on what we've heard talking to people at the NHL draft and afterwards and guests off the show, is that Toronto does not like working with Montreal after that playoff series where they felt they were disrespected.
You should have won.
I don't
you
know
didn't want
what.
to get disrespected. You should have won.
Exactly. And that's the thing is, it's I don't know where the disrespect in that series was. I thought out with everything that happened in that series, things were fine, but we're getting off the topic here, is that no matter what the Canadiens do within reason, like if they were to offer sheet him at, 2.75 or 2.5, and it's just 1 second round pick, Toronto's going to match that. Like, I can't imagine that they wouldn't, because that's their future guy. It'd be like the Sebastian Aho thing. If the Habs offer sheet him at 6 years at 2.5, like, guess what? He's going to, they're going to match that because they're not stupid. They know that that's a deal, and they'll just trade somebody else. So, like,
I like how Maple is weighing in on the deal too.
Yeah,
Maple's like 2.5 is stupid.
Yeah, unfortunately, she must have to go out. So, but like, it's such an interesting conversation to have, because the Canadiens are in position to actually do this thing. It doesn't make a ton of sense for them unless they don't believe in a Guhle, a Jack Eye right now, and they want to give them a little more time before they have to go, which, okay, that's fair. I could understand that. We want to give Guhle and we want to give Jack Eye, we want to give Norlinder more time, and we don't want to rush them into the NHL. I can respect that. Rasmus Sandin is an NHL player right now. We know that for a fact. But I just don't see a level where they're not overpaying for him, where the Leafs aren't going to immediately match that, and then we've just helped out your closest rival for years to come.
Yeah, I think, for me, I wouldn't do it unless it's a bold one. But also, I think the Canadiens definitely have enough players. Like, I will say, though, that Rasmus Sandin is an attractive option for a lot of teams. It's just unfortunate that the Canadiens don't really need to do this right now, because a whole bunch of other teams don't have the necessary picks to give him an attractive offer sheet. Because I would love for somebody else to screw over the division rival.
Yeah,
for the Canadiens not to lose their picks. It
would be hilarious, to be quite honest, for me, is that I really do think, like, in so many aspects, it makes sense, but at the same time, it also doesn't. I want to see it happen for chaos. I want someone to do it, and if it's not going to be the Canadiens, I want it to be somebody, because there's an opportunity there for someone to get a good young player. Maybe I don't think as highly of him as some Leaf fans do, but I do acknowledge he's a very good young player in the NHL. And speaking of good young players, in perfect timing, the Canadiens have just released their rookie camp roster for the rookie showcase here in Buffalo, New York. We're going to be going over that list and our expectations for that tournament coming up next. We are back. We're releasing camp rosters, which it's the precursor to, well, we're in PTO season a little bit, but now we're getting camp rosters, and we're getting excited about dudes who might never play an NHL game, which, okay, is fine. But I have in front of me, the Canadiens just tweeted this out, and I'm glad that I saw this as I was scrolling Twitter during one of our segments here. This is the rookie camp roster, and I'm going to read this top to bottom: forwards, defensemen, goalies: Owen Beck, Lucas Condotta, Jared Davidson, Pierre Dubé, Ryan Francis, Cedric Guindon, Emil Heineman, Riley Kidney, Philip Machar, Jan Mysak, John Parker Jones, Joshua Waugh, Xavier Simoneau, Yaroslav Kovsky, and Brett Stapley are in the forward group there. Justin Barron, Santino Santorni Fairbrother, Kaiden Guhle, Jordan Harris, Matthias Norlinder, Miguel Torini, William Trudeau, and Arbor Benz. In goaltenders, there's Antoine Colombe, Riley Mercer, and Joe Verbatic. And then on the injured list is Logan Mailloux. He is clearly traveling with the team just for whatever circumstances that is. That the forward group is very top heavy, in that I look at this and that you have your Slavkovsky, you have your Waugh, you have your Mysak, your Machar, and then it's a bunch of guys that it's like, hey, show us what you got kind of thing here before we send you back to camp, because it's not like they can send Cole Caulfield. It's not like they can send Jesse Alonen or Raphael Harvey-Pinard, who have multiple professional seasons under their belt. But it's a big chance for a guy like Brett Stapley, who's on an AHL contract right now, to kind of show his worth. And I look at this defense, and having Barron, Guhle, Harris, and Norlinder is almost unfair, it feels like. Goaltending is 2 professional tryouts, but you know what? I'm very excited. We have a camp roster. There's a lot of exciting guys in here that I actually can't wait to watch play in person. And I'm giddy. I was waiting for this to happen. I thought they would do this after their physicals during the week here before they traveled, but I got to say, that's a pretty strong group here. I don't know what the other teams look like, the Sabres, the Senators, and the Devils, the teams they're playing, but it's a pretty good-looking team, I'm not going to lie.
It's basically everybody but the guys who are in college, right?
Yes, I believe I'm unclear on for rookie tournaments if the college guys can go if they pay their own way or if that's just rookie camp. I'm
Okay.
not 100% sure of the games because they get room and board paid for by the team when they travel and everything. And I'm not sure because the NCAA is a corrupt, disgusting organization. So there is no Sean Farrell. There is no Jaden Struble, unfortunately. There is no Jakob Dobish.
Lane
And a lot
Hudson.
of the guys who are in Europe aren't here either because
Right.
their season
Right.
started already.
Exactly. So I'm going to say something. So I know there's a lot of big names on that roster. I know there's a lot of excitement, but I personally, there's two people that I'm excited to see. And I'm also just getting so jealous because Scott is actually going to be covering it. And I had initial plans to go and watch it as a fan, but circumstances in my life changed. So I can't go to Buffalo this week. I'm so jealous because, I'm so excited for all these big names, but I'm also really curious about Emil Heineman. That's who I want to see the most from. I want to see what they do with him, and I want to see what he brings because he's been such a big question mark since the Canadiens traded for him because it seemed like the people in Calgary weren't as high on him as the people in Montreal. It seems like Kent Hughes and Jeff Gorton, like they had him as a target, like that's who they wanted. They gave up a player who was on such an economical contract for his value and production, and they got Emil Heineman. So to me, like obviously there's picks involved as well, blah, blah, blah. But I want to see what he's got. He was injured. We couldn't see him in the AHL playoffs. I'm so curious.
I'm really glad that you actually said that because that's the name that stuck out to me too, because the last we knew, he was going back to Europe to play for Leksand because it was NHL or the SHL for him, which, okay, the SHL is a very good league, arguably better than for him. So I am curious to see what he has in there. And then also the other name that sticks out to me is Ryan Francis, who is signed to an AHL contract. He was someone who played very well for St. John in the QMJHL. And the Rocket have been pushing hard with him at every camp thing there. And I've talked to some scouting people that actually really like him. He's someone I'm interested in seeing what they do here. He's, they signed him as a free agent. He wasn't drafted all that long ago. I want to know kind of what he's got a little bit. I'm really excited. And then obviously that defense core is very, very good, like across the board. In there are three guys you can name captain for this team. You can name Justin Barron, you can name Kaiden Guhle, you can name Jordan Harris. I don't think anyone would blink an eye at any of that. On the other side of things, you could name someone like a Joshua Watt or a Brett Stapley captain or Owen Beck, who they seem to love. The roster's exciting because there's a good mix of guys with something to prove and guys that we know have high upside. And none of it feels like this is just a dude, who is here, like it's not this is the goon. This is this guy. Like, yeah, Arbor Jack guy likes to fight people, but we know he has upside to it. It's such a stark contrast from what teams have been in the past. My biggest thing here is my expectation is all eyes are going to be on Yura Slafkovsky. No matter what he does, good or bad, is going to be put under such a microscope going forward. And he's the one that I am obviously the most interested to watch because I have never seen him play in person. I've seen Brett Stapley play in person. I've seen Joshua Watt play. I've seen Kaiden Guhle and Jordan Harris and these other guys. I want to see what Slafkovsky does because all the clips we got from their prospect camp after the draft were impressive. Now he's got to do it against other teams where it's not teammates. I am very excited to see what this kid can do. He's one of the tallest players there. He's the heaviest player there by 10 pounds, which is shocking because he's a child. They have numbers for everyone too. Not that matters all that much, but I can't wait to see kind of what, comes out of this here. There's a lot of names. And I'm wondering if besides Joshua Waugh, who here can say, I impressed in this, I want a longer look in NHL training camp here. We talked about Brett Stapley a little bit trying to earn an NHL deal, but everyone here, I mean, for the most part, a guy like Kondata is not really going to make it, but someone like a Jan Mishak, a Philip Mashar, Joshua Waugh, a Justin Barron, Jordan Harris, Norlinder, all these guys are fighting for NHL spots in the near future here. It's the first step in a proving ground. And Laura, before we kind of wrap up the show here, what are your kind of general expectations for this tournament besides, please, for the love of God, nobody get hurt?
Right. That's it. And anything for me, I'm just excited to see Slavkovsky. We talked about Emil Heineman and what he brings, Ryan Francis and what he brings. I also just want to see Slavkovsky play in North America. And I'm excited to see him play also against, I'm hoping that the Devils will play Nemitz. Right. So I'm happy that this is happening, and I'm happy that you get to go to it. And I'm happy that the hockey season is back, because we'll have so much more to talk about, especially as we move to 5 days a week next week.
Yes, we will be going back to 5 days starting the week after the rookie tournament. So the 19th, that Monday, will be our first time. Obviously, the rookie tournament will be over at that point. We will likely have, I assume, tryout news, any kind of trades or anything. Now that everyone is kind of congregating back towards their playing cities, we know there have been informal skates in Laval and Brossard for all these guys. A lot of things are going to happen here in very short order, and we hope you're going to stick with us here. So please make sure you subscribe wherever you get your podcast. Subscribe on YouTube so you can see our shining faces, or mine when I'm sometimes eating overly spicy chicken wings. And as always, when you're done listening to us, please check out Locked On NHL, where all our local experts have all the news and information you need to have you covered going into the NHL season. Folks, we will see you all next time.